Never revealed. Jungkook hid this from fans for years. Hello ARMY. In the dazzling world of fame, where every blink is captured by a lens and every breath is analyzed by millions, silence becomes a powerful thing. And Jungkook, BTS's golden maknae, has mastered that silence. He is a man of few words, but countless expressions. A man who chooses actions over announcements. And for years, behind that charming smile and perfect stage presence, he held a truth. So precious, so private, that not even the most devoted armies knew. What was it? Was it pain? A struggle? A sacrifice? Or perhaps, an act of love so profound that even he couldn't bring himself to say it aloud? Today, that silence breaks. And the story begins. The quiet boy from Busan. Jungkook was not born into fame. He was born in the bustling port city of Busan, where ocean waves whispered dreams into the ears of a quiet child. As a young boy, Jungkook was observant, introverted, and curious. He watched the world more than he spoke. He wasn't loud about his dreams, but they were big. Bigger than Busan. Bigger than his own understanding. He wanted to sing. He wanted to dance. He wanted to express something inside him that words could never quite capture. So, at just 13, he left his hometown, his family, his friends, the comfort of childhood, and traveled to Seoul to chase that dream. And that's when the real story began. Trainee days, the loneliness behind the curtain. As a trainee, Jungkook faced a reality harsher than anything he'd ever imagined. Long, cold practice rooms. Nights that stretched into mornings. Endless hours of repetition, perfection, exhaustion. At times, he was the youngest in the room. Too young to fully understand the contracts he signed, the expectations placed on his back. He trained among older boys, many of whom would leave before debut. Each time someone left, he wondered, would I be next? And yet, every day, he stayed. He trained. He cried. He dreamed. But most of all, he stayed silent about the battles he fought. He didn't want pity. He wanted to earn love. And he did, through sweat, tears, and silent perseverance. The birth of BTS, a new kind of burden. When BTS debuted, Jungkook was just 15. He was still figuring out who he was as a person, while being asked to perform like a seasoned professional. Suddenly, millions of eyes were on him. He became the main vocalist, the lead dancer, the visual, the youngest, the expectation. And every time he stepped on stage, he wore a smile, bright and full of promise. But behind that smile were sleepless nights, self-doubt, and a burning pressure to never let anyone down. In interviews, he laughed. On stage, he shined. But alone? He wondered if he was truly enough. Because when you're Jungkook, failure is not an option. Not when the world calls you the golden maknae. Hidden messages in the music. Over the years, Jungkook began to write music, not just for others, but for himself. Songs like Still With You, My You***L, and even unreleased demos hold messages so intimate, so personal, that most fans miss them. But if you listen closely, truly listen, you'll hear the voice of a young man reaching out through melody. A voice that says, I miss you even when I'm with you. I smile so you don't see me cry. I love you, but I don't know how to show it. These lyrics weren't just fan service. They were confessions. Silent letters. The stage was his diary. And ARMY, his most trusted reader. The secret acts of kindness. In 2024, a quiet report surfaced from a charity in East Africa. A child's life had been saved by a sponsor who refused to reveal their identity. The donation was large enough to fund surgeries for 12 children. The donor's alias? JK0613. It meant nothing to the world. But to ARMY, it was a clue. Further investigations revealed that for years, Jungkook had been donating under pseudonyms to dozens of global causes. Funding education for Afghan refugee girls. Supporting mental health therapy for South Korean youth. Providing food and shelter for street children in Southeast Asia. Contributing to animal rescue sanctuaries anonymously. He never posted about it. Never spoke about it in interviews. Never asked for recognition. Why? Because Jungkook didn't want applause. He wanted impact. The letter he never sent. A former Big Hit staff member, now retired, once found a crumpled notebook in a backstage waiting room. Inside it, a single, handwritten note. No date. No signature. Just emotion. To ARMY. Sometimes I wonder who I would be if I wasn't Jungkook from BTS. Would you still love me? Would I still be worth something? But then I realize, you don't love me because I'm perfect. You love me even when I'm lost. Even when I say nothing. And that love saved me. The note was never published. Never confirmed. But fans believe it was real. And perhaps that was Jungkook's way of saying what he couldn't say out loud. The day ARMY found out. When the truth finally emerged, the fandom erupted, not in anger, but in heartbreak and pride. People cried across continents. Fan clubs lit candles in silent vigils. Art was created. Poems were written. Messages poured in like a river. We wish we had known, so we could have held you tighter. You gave so much, and never asked for anything in return. Jungkook, you are love itself. Global hashtags trended for days. #Golden Heart Jungkook. #JK the Silent Hero. #You Never Walk Alone. It wasn't just a fandom anymore. It was a family. A legacy of love. Jungkook may have kept his kindness a secret. But secrets have a way of becoming legends. Now, around the world, armies are doing more than just streaming songs. They're building schools, donating blood, planting trees, all in his name. Because Jungkook didn't just create music. He created a movement. He proved that the greatest love isn't always loud. It's patient. It's quiet. It's real. The final whisper. And that's the legacy he leaves, not just as an artist, but as a man who loved deeply, silently, and endlessly. A man who carried the weight of 1,000,000 hearts with grace, yet never once asked for anything in return. So, the next time you see Jungkook smile on stage, remember the boy who once cried alone in a practice room. Long before the cheers, before the lights, when the only sound was his breath catching in the silence. Remember the hands he held without anyone knowing. The quiet comfort he gave to those who needed it most. Remember the lives he touched, not with grand gestures, but with presence, with patience, with silent understanding. And know this? He didn't hide this from you to lie. He hid it because he loves you too much to burden you. He carried the silence so you wouldn't have to. He bore the storms so you could dance in the sun. And now, you know. Jungkook, not just a golden voice, but a golden soul. A soul who sang not for applause, but to heal. A heart that never asked to be worshipped, only understood. He didn't ask to be loved like this. But he deserves every bit of it. And maybe, even more.